everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Going to be having a little bit of fun with Microsoft Word 2016. It is, of course, the latest and greatest offering from the Microsoft Office suite. Going to go through and cover some things that might look a little basic, but we'll go in depth on them, and then cover some tips and tricks that you might not otherwise know about. We'll do a quick history on the product itself, and then we're going to go into these topics that you can see. So we're going to cover the ribbon and how to customize it. We're going to talk about Researcher and Insights. We're going to go into how to set and use quick parts. We're going to take a look at the themes and styles, show how to create a table of contents automatically. We're going to explore Format Painter, show how to use the updated version of Find and Replace. We'll show you how to customize autocorrect, get into a little bit of sharing and collaboration, and then I've got a few bonus tips for you as well. Those of you who have sent in questions beforehand, I have compiled the ones that I can answer most easily in this particular format. If afterwards you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us again. Anything that has not already been answered, we will do our best to contact you, but if you don't hear from us, please feel free to make that outreach. We do want to make sure that all of your questions do get answered one way or the other. So, I'm going to take a look at Microsoft Word itself. It started way back in 1983. It's when it was first officially introduced as Microsoft Word. It was based off of a previous product. Microsoft wooed a couple of programmers from a previous company who took the product that they had made there, turned it into the fantastic Word editor that we know and love today. It's kind of cool that the first free demo copies were given away via floppy disk, the big, square, thin floppies, not the small, firm ones, but the old 5-inch floppies. They gave them away at the November 1983 edition of PC World magazine, and that was one of the first times that free software was ever given away that way. Anybody who had magazine subscriptions, even into the mid-2000s, probably remembers that those software giveaways were things that continued to happen for quite some time. I remember even relatively recently still getting Xbox demo games with Xbox Magazine, things like that. So it started way back in 1983 with Microsoft Word. It's kind of fun to know. It actually didn't really achieve commercial success until Windows 3.0 was released in 1990, but once that was out there, Microsoft Word took off and it has dominated the market ever since. The autocorrect feature that we live and die by today was actually first introduced in version 6.0 in 1993. That fact actually surprised me because I would have thought that autocorrect seems like a much more modern concept, especially with the smartphones that we use today. It turns out that it started way back in 93. So autocorrect has been around actually before the spell check suggestions were. That came much later. The red squiggly line underneath the misspelled words actually came after autocorrect. So that was fun to know. And then the ribbon that was sort of a stylistic revolution for Microsoft Word first made its appearance in 2007. So we're going to go ahead and start the presentation there with the ribbon. When it was first announced, the ribbon was not super popular. People didn't like the change. They weren't used to the way that it's presented. Everyone was used to the standard menu options that we have along the top here, but this ribbon with all of these icons and options here, people were afraid that it was too cluttered or too messy or it was overwhelming. But as the product got more feedback and as we've used it throughout time, it has gotten a lot more refined and it is a lot more customizable. So some of the cool things about this is that anything that you want to have in your ribbon, you can set to have in your ribbon. Features that you use frequently, if you right-click on them, you can add them to a custom quick access toolbar that would be shown below the ribbon. So you can have any of your favorite features saved up here as well. So if there turns out to be something that you just use all the time, you can set it so that all of your favorite features are in this quick access toolbar. Within the ribbon itself, a lot of the features that are available are customizable as well. So when you get into things like styles, you can modify the styles that are there by right-clicking on it. A lot of options have other options, other sub options beneath them if you right click on them as well. Otherwise, you can just add it to the ribbon, customize the ribbon, collapse the ribbon if you just don't want to look at it anymore, or if you need a bigger screen to see, you can open and close it with the either the view tab or the view menu, or you can use the buttons that pop up as well. Going back over here to the Home tab, you can see that a lot of the overview in the ribbon is very well organized. If you think about it in the way of, what am I looking for? I want to add a shape. I want to add an element. Most of those items are going to be in Insert, along with formatting options under Draw, if you're doing individual shapes that you're going to freehand. Design is where you're going to find your themes and how to edit those. So this is all very well organized, and you can tell that they've taken a lot of input from the actual users as to how to structure this so that it is very, very intuitive. You shouldn't have to hunt too hard anymore in the ribbon to find the item that you are looking for. Even using it very often, every once in a while, I'll think of something that, I'd like to add this element, wonder where to find it. I take a guess, and it's usually right in front of my face. So it's very, very well designed. And with every edition that Microsoft does release, it is a little bit more polished. The nice thing about it, though, is if you have upgraded to the 2016 version and maybe you really like the way that something was set up in the 2010 version, you can go through, you can customize customize the ribbon and set anything that you want. So if there's an item that's missing, feel free to go through this list and add it. It populates the most popular commands to start. You can also look at all commands that are not in the ribbon. This is my favorite way to find something. If I'm looking and I don't see it, I'll choose the option for commands not in the ribbon, and it is all alphabetical. So it's very, very easy to navigate. Just take your best guess for how to phrase what you're looking for. Since I'm talking about how to phrase things, I do want to touch on one of the biggest changes for the more recent version of Microsoft Word. And this is something that is an element that is available across all of the Microsoft Office suite, is instead of search, there's the tell me what you want to do feature. So instead of searching for a phrase, let's say if you want to know how to add a hyperlink, instead of saying, how do I add a hyperlink, you would just tell it what you want to do. So just add link, add a hyperlink, and it tells you exactly how to do it right there. And it'll actually bring up the window that you need to add whatever it is that you're trying to add or to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. So not only will it show you how to do it, it just gives you the feature that you wanted in the first place. So if you're missing something, you can't find it, tell Word what you want it to do, and it will just give it to you. It's super intuitive, and it's actually a really exciting feature, I think, just because it saves so much time in that it just gives you the dialog box that you are looking for. It doesn't make you go hunt for it. It doesn't make you, read through a bunch of paragraphs to figure out, okay, how do I do this step by step? It just hands it to you. So very good feature. That is something, like I said, that is available in all of the Microsoft Office suite. So it's one of my favorite new features. Next thing we're going to look at is going to be Researcher and Insights. I've got my little custom template here. This is, or my example template. I just made up a little company newsletter for a company that doesn't really exist, but put in some elements that we might want to use during any sort of company newsletter that you might want to put out. So we've got some elements here, but I want to talk about Researcher first, just because it is one of the more quietly kept secrets of the most recent version of Microsoft Word. I actually saw on Facebook a couple days ago that there were a lot of college students who were just finding out about this feature and were lamenting the fact that they didn't know it existed earlier because it is so robust for students. It's a fantastic feature that was really kind of developed for students in the first place, but there are a lot of business applications as well. So for instance, in this mock newsletter that I have, I decided that maybe something that we might want to put in a newsletter, something that might, if you are an IT company or some sort of information sciences company, that maybe a history lesson on some element of technology would be something that you would want to share in a friendly newsletter. That seems like the kind of content that maybe readers would be interested in. So in this hypothetical company, they're going to want to do a little history lesson about Windows 3.0. So a couple of options that we have here. If I highlight this and right-click, option here in the drop-down menu for Smart Lookup. So if I search this for Smart Lookup, it is a feature that you do have to enable. The first time that you try and use this feature, it's going to ask for some settings. It's going to ask for you to enable the information. Once you do it, it does load pretty quickly. It is a nice, robust feature. So what it's done is in this sidebar, it's done a search. Of course, it is a Microsoft product, so it does use Bing. If you're not a fan of the Bing search engine, maybe this will give you a reason to like it a little bit more. It does pull up very, very clean results within the Word software itself. So these results are very easily digestible. I haven't seen it pull anything that is inappropriate, so it seems like a fairly safe feature to use as well. They've coded it quite nicely so that it is easy to use for multiple applications, including for students. So this has given me a couple of Wikipedia results. It's also given me some image results and then some general web results. So if I click on one of these, I can see it's opening in Microsoft Edge browser by default. That's just the default browser that I have set with my computer. Of course, it is running Windows 10, so I just kind of left it to do its own thing because it is very clean and very user-friendly. If you like a different browser, feel free to use it, but you may not get the same exact results as you would if you left everything native to the Microsoft product. So this just goes ahead and brings up the Wikipedia page on what we're looking at. This is good for, say you're making reference to something and you just can't quite remember the details. Maybe you can't remember exactly what something was called. You can use that Smart Lookup feature to do a quick web search right within Word itself. It'll launch that external window, but all of that info is there for you. So that's if you just need to take a quick peek at something. Now I'm going to come up here though to the References tab, and I'm going to look at this feature here called Researcher. As the menu, the additional information populates, you can see it describes the feature as let us help you find quotes, citable sources, and images. Right next to it, you can see this info here about citations, managed sources, the style, the bibliography. So if you are someone who has spent any time in academia whatsoever, I'm sure you have had to cite your sources on a paper, a research paper at some point. So this automatically comes with all of the most popular citation styles, and it formats it automatically for you and then gives you the ability to go and edit things afterwards. Not only do you have the ability to edit it, it stays as a live feature within Word unless you specify otherwise. So if you are digitally submitting papers as a student, you have the option to keep that information in there. The professor or whoever is taking a look at the paper or a teammate or what have you has the option to view the citation within Word itself as opposed to having to include a bunch of extraneous text as well. So this could also be useful for business if you have people doing research within the company as well, whether that is market research or studying some other aspect of a product or the business itself. So this isn't just for students. This is something that you can use well beyond school days. But we'll go back over to Researcher itself, and if you click on it, it gives you this search bar. So the history lesson that we want to give is on Windows 3.0. And it works just like a normal search engine. Gives you these results here. Gives you a couple different options here where you can search for everything. You can search for books. So if you specifically need references that are not websites, something that is more geared towards students but does have business applications as well, if you've got an assignment where they have said, you can't use a website, you have to use hard copy sources, this will give you information on those hard copy sources. Otherwise, for the most part, for this application, for business application, the website search is going to be what you're really going to be looking for. So you can scroll on through here and see all of this information on Windows 3.0. So you can go ahead and click on one and see what information is in that particular option. If you don't like that one, you can go back, take a look at some of the others. Maybe you want to refine it a little bit more. Let's call it History, Windows 3.0 History. Let's see. Let's go with this article here, where Microsoft 3.0 was 20 years old today. No, I just don't like that one either. When I was demoing this earlier, I had found a result that I thought was perfect for this, and now I wish that I had kept tabs on it. Let's see. Okay, so this will do. We'll start here. So let's say that we're wanting to share a little bit of information about Windows 3.0, and I like this first paragraph here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this, and let's see. You can drag and drop directly from this window here, or you can open it up in Reading View and see all of the information that's actually on the web page. And you can do the same thing here with selecting it. That's the same paragraph. Let's come down and find some new information. So if you highlight this, once you're in Reading View, a pop-up comes up right away that says Add and Cite. So you click on Add and Cite. It's going to add the content into your document. And if you come up to your citations, you can change which citation is in here. Now this is giving the citation in line in the paragraph, so it's right here. And this is the feature that I was mentioning. It gives you this drop down where you can edit the citation, you can edit the source. If you click Edit Source, it'll give you these customization options as well. It shows you the URL where it came from, the name of the website, name of the web page, and the author. So you're going to see this is a really, really robust way to include information from external sources that you are citing, so you're giving credit to the original source, and having that information directly in your paper or your newsletter or whatever document it is that you are working on. So let's say then that once I've got this, I'm going to click at the end of this paragraph, and I want to add my references inline. So you can actually see the full text of the references as opposed to just what is in the paragraph itself. This is something that, especially if you're doing research of any kind, you are going to want references, a list of references in there so that people know that it's not research that you did yourself, it's information that you have sourced elsewhere. This now shows you the two websites that I've looked at, the two sources for the information. So once you're done with that, you can go ahead and close that pane. If you need to go back into it, go back to Researcher, and you can even see my research. You do have to log in to either your Outlook account or your Microsoft account to be able to view saved research, but once you do log in, you do have the option to bookmark research that you have used before. So that is extra handy, especially if you have sources that you really love, that you want to use often. And again, from a business standpoint, you may not need to necessarily do a whole bibliography or references, but say there's a source for jokes, or there's a source for tech tips that you really like, or there's a source for recipes that you like to share. Keeping those things bookmarked as well makes it very, very easy to add content directly to your newsletter. And of course, you can also add content from your own website. So that information can be stored there within Word itself. Right, so that is Researcher. Next up, I'm going to take a little stroll into Quick Parts. Quick Parts is sort of like mini macros. It gives you options to Back over to my ribbon here. It gives you the options to not have to type things over and over again that you use frequently. So something that in a business newsletter or a flyer or anything that you are publishing through Word, you're probably going to want to have your company information somewhere that is easily accessible. You can put it in the header or the footer. It might get a little cluttered. Maybe you want to make it really stand out. This is a great way to do it. But, of course, you're not going to want to type it out every single time, especially if you start adding phone numbers and fax numbers and email addresses, maybe even like a company byline, something like that. It'd be nice to just be able to have that available to you without having to remember exactly the format, maybe especially if you've got multiple phone numbers. It is a lot of information that could potentially get lost. So, under the Insert tab, there is the option over here. Now, mind you, if you don't see something exactly where I see it, I have done my best to leave my edition of Word as close to out of the box as possible. That said, I can't rule out that I may have dragged and dropped something somewhere at some point without recalling that I did that. I do try to leave it alone, especially for doing these demos, so that you can see exactly where to find the option. But if you don't see it, of course, you can always use the tell me what you want to do. Just type in, quick parts if you don't find quick parts. Okay, so you're going to want to highlight the information, go into Insert, and then Quick Parts. This option here, right at the top where it says Auto Text,